Hey peeps, here's the notebook for investigation for week 3, fungal cells. We're still studying bacteria, archaea, and fungi, the 3 domains of life, blah, blah, blah. I'm a fungi, but I don't have mushroom for patience. I'm not to be truffled with. So here's the fungus slideshow, and what you need to do is you need to answer these questions as we go. So as I'm going through it, you should be answering the questions. You can always click on this if you need to see an answer again. What are 3 types of fungi? Where does penicillin come from? What are 3 ways that fungi can be beneficial? And is it true that the largest living organism in the world is a fungus? How big is it? Fungi slideshow. So here are 5 types of fungi that should answer that first question. Yeast, mold, mushrooms, mildew, lichens. Here's the yeast. It's actually a single-celled fungus. Here's the mold. You've probably seen something like that before on your food in your fridge or sitting out. These are mushrooms. This is mildew growing on a leaf. And these are lichens, sort of crusty and very cool looking. And they also grow on trees and bark, and you'll see some more pictures of them later. Beneficial fungi. So here's one way fungi are beneficial, and this also is about penicillin. So this answers B and C if you get creative. What is penicillin? What do we know about it? It's an antibiotic. So it's used to treat bacteria infections. You may have taken it. Maybe you've had strep throat, which is an infection in your throat. You may have taken it for another type of bacterial infection. Basically, penicillin wipes out bacteria if you have an infection, and it's a medicine. That's why it's called an antibiotic. But where does it come from? It's made from a mold. The mold is called Penicillium chrysogenum. It was discovered in 1929 by Alexander Fleming. So this guy had petri dishes in his lab, and he left them open for some reason and kind of left and maybe went to lunch or something. And when he came back, those petri dishes that were covered with bacteria, there was spots where there was no longer bacteria, or the bacteria got wiped out. So he tested those areas and he found the mold Penicillium chrysogenum. And he studied it more, and he figured out that the mold is competing with the bacteria for food and resources. And it secretes some sort of a chemical enzyme that prevents bacteria from being able to form new cell walls when it divides. So if a bacteria goes to reproduce itself, gets really big, goes to divide, oops, now both bacteria cells are dead. So it's very effective at killing bacteria. And so that's what penicillin is. That's where it comes from. It comes from a mold, and it's an antibiotic. But think about it. This is one way fungi are very beneficial, because before penicillin, there really wasn't a good antibiotic drug that people could take when they had a bad infection. So people would die from bad infections pretty regularly. So this was a big deal. All right. So that should answer B and C. Some more beneficial fungi. Other penicillin molds are used to make camembert, brie, and gorgonzola cheeses. So tasty, funky, smelly, yummy cheeses. We also eat mushrooms. Many of us eat mushrooms. And many of us eat bread. And yeast, which is a fungus, is used to bake bread. If you look at bread, you can see all those little holes in the loaf. That was because when that dough was rising before it was baked, yeast was doing its job in the dough. That's why it was rising. So what does the yeast do? It eats up the sugar in the dough, and then it excretes CO2 through its metabolism. It eats and it excretes. So what is CO2? It's a gas. So that yeast is eating, and excreting gas, and the dough is rising and rising and rising and rising. And then we bake it, and it has all this lovely, fluffy, spongy, delicious dough because the yeast caused it to rise up and develop the gluten, and super yummy. 90% of all mushrooms grown for food are button mushrooms. This species, Agaricus bisporus, is actually the same species as a portobello mushroom. If you've ever had them, they're huge. So apparently if you let these grow and grow, they get big like a portobello mushroom. This is a huge way that fungi are beneficial. So not only do we eat them, but they help to break down dead materials and return those nutrients to the soil. They're decomposers. So if a tree or an animal dies in the woods, it doesn't stay there forever. A bacteria or a fungus and bacteria in the soil will start breaking it down, right? It'll get covered with mold. It might get covered with bugs, tiny bugs that will start eating away at it. And all those decomposers are actually doing a huge service to us, because think about what our planet would be like if when everything died, it just stayed there. Wouldn't be good. So fungi are incredible decomposers. That's very, very beneficial. So that should be your third thing in your notes. We talked about medicine, we talked about food, and we talked about decomposers. Here's some ways that fungi can be harmful. Some mushrooms are poisonous. You guys hopefully know that. This is one of the most poisonous mushrooms, the destroying angel mushroom. It's responsible for more than 90% of mushroom-related deaths. I think people pick it because it looks pretty harmless. Some might think it even looks like a button mushroom that you get at the store. But if you see that it has this sort of little veil, a little skirt, I don't know if that makes it look like an angel or what. But that is not a safe mushroom to eat. Eating just one can kill a person. So watch out for your little siblings or your pets. Don't let them eat random mushrooms. It's not safe. And these types of mushrooms grow here. So we have to keep our eyes peeled for poisonous mushrooms. Don't just pick any old mushroom and give it a try. Here's another way that fungi can be harmful. Molds and mildew can release their spores into the air in your home, which can cause respiratory problems, asthma attacks, and irritation of the eyes, nose, and throat. Not good. So if you have any of that type of growth, you got to take care of it. Okay, these are not harmful. Lichens are just cool. It's a unique thing, so it has its own slide. A lot of people don't know this, but a lichen, a lot of people think, oh, it's like coral or it's a plant. It's actually not coral, and it's not a plant. It is a fungi that is teamed up with a photosynthetic algae. An algae is a plant, but a fungi is not. They team up, so it's two organisms actually working together to live and survive. The algae does photosynthesis, so give me that sunlight, yum, 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 make sugars. The fungi will feed off of those sugars, and it will provide structure and habitat for that algae. And it will grow and grow. They're everywhere. Lichens are on trees and forests, rocks. They've even been observed in the Arctic and in deserts. Look for them here in Olympia. We have a lot of cool lichen here. Some fun fungi facts. Fungi don't need light to grow. Fungi are not the same as plants, people. Fungal spores have lasted hundreds of years. In a cubic centimeter of soil, there may be 8 miles of hyphae, mycelium. If I was going to walk 8 miles, it'd probably take me like 2.5 or 3 hours or more. I don't even know. I think it would take me a long time. 8 miles is a very long distance, but they're talking about a cubic centimeter of soil. How can it contain that much mycelium? What is mycelium? It's these tiny threads that's how fungi and mushrooms grow and spread in soil. You normally don't see it, but it's sort of like if you've ever seen mold grow on something, it's sort of white and fuzzy. That's the mycelium for that fungi. So in the soil, you don't see it, it's underground, but It's full, it's loaded with mycelium. It really is doing a huge job for keeping soil healthy, and nobody ever gives it any credit, but it's there. Some fungi have proven effective in killing viruses, and fungi were the first organisms to come to land. So they were the first pioneers of land. Think back before there were animals on land, before there were plants on land, there were fungi on land. Pretty cool. And the final note, the largest living organism in the world may be a fungus. So that final question, the answer is yes. It covers a space about the size of 1,665 football fields. So go ahead and fill that in for how big is it in your doc. How big is it? 1,665 football fields. It grows in a forest in Oregon. It spreads underground with intertwining threads of hyphae, which is another word for mycelium. And honey mushrooms spring up over that whole area. And it's one connected organism. That's pretty amazing. Photo credits, if you need to see any of those slides again, you just pop back in and check them out. Okay, you should watch these videos about mycelium growing and reproducing. They have a really cool spooky alien music that shows you the growth of the mycelium and the mushrooms. This one is super cool. You can see spores just dumping out of a mushroom. And this one has a dung cannon mushroom, which shoots little spores out of dung, poop. And then puffballs. Puffballs are rad. We have puffballs here in Olympia. So check out these videos and poke around. If you want to try an experiment at home to see spores in real life, you can make a mushroom spore print. Just make sure that if you're finding a mushroom in the woods, you throw it away, don't eat it, and wash your hands when you're done. But this is a cool way to study mushrooms, is by making a spore print. These are all clickable links. You should click on all of these in order to answer this question about how fungi reproduce. Okay? And you can also check your answer against mine. So pause it if you need to see that for longer. Fungal cell diagram. This is a fungal cell, or actually 3. The weird thing you should notice about this is, first of all, it has a bunch of nuclei. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually we just see one nucleus in a cell. And so this is a pretty weird cell, a fungal cell. It's got a big central vacuole, just like a plant cell. It's got mitochondria, like plants and animals have. And it's got lots of ribosomes, like all cells have. On the outside of it, you see a cell wall, which is a rigid outer layer. And the inside is a cell membrane, which is that smart outer layer that's going to actually let certain things in and keep other things out. The cell wall is just sort of like a bodyguard. The cell membrane is really wise and says, no, no, you are not allowed to enter. Or yes, yes, you may enter. Okay, so you can fill in those cell structures. Cell membrane, cell wall, central vacuole. Cytoplasm is that jelly-like fluid inside the cell. The endoplasmic reticulum surrounds the nucleus, assembles proteins and parts of the cell membrane. Mitochondria is all about energy, making ATP, usable energy, just like in that video game we did. Nucleus contains DNA. Ribosomes make proteins. Pores are these gaps or holes or openings in between the fungal cell. I've never seen any other multi-celled organism that has cells like this. And I think it allows it to grow really quickly and easily. When it wants to make a new cell, it just is going to shoot one out over here and then shoot the cell structures into it. And it can grow and spread its mycelium very easily that way. Okay, evidence of life. We deleted the bacteria column. And how we did that was we right-clicked or double-tapped on the blue column you're probably seeing in your doc. Double tap on the blue. And then you should see the option to delete column. You can delete the whole purple column and just focus on fungi. I'm just going to scroll through it slowly. You should pause it so that you can get the answers. All right, peeps. What did the fungi say to the algae about their relationship? I'm liking it. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys soon. Send me an email if you have any questions. As always, I'm here to help. Bye.